Hello guys, and welcome to the Vertical Academy. And in today's video we are going to be able to revise with you under genetics. So for those that are writing the final grade 12, maybe some of you have not understood what genetics is, and maybe some of you might have forgotten what is genetics and some of the key concepts, the fundamentals that underlies what is called genetics. Now, you wish to understand that genetics comes every year in every single paper, and both in paper 1 as well as in paper 2. So this video, or rather this lesson, is going to help you understand. And then as we keep on revising, in particular with biology, so we keep on revising with different other topics just to help us understand and be able to refresh our memory. So if you're watching for the first time, remember to support, subscribe, and also like this video. You can share the video with your families, your friends, and anyone that you think might be interested in this video. Now, without much further ado, let's now do this. So most of the time we start with the simple stuff, okay? From what we understand versus to maybe some of the bigger concepts behind genetics. But nevertheless, we have to define what is genetics. And this is the most important thing that we need to understand, the definition of what genetics is. Okay, so we'll look at now what you've just said is this is the study of inheritance. So when you're looking at genetics, we define it to be the study of inheritance. So what are you inheriting? Okay, so when you're thinking about understanding inheritance and how it works, is that our parents, both our mothers and also our, our mothers and also fathers, okay, they have us, and we are born, we start growing. But one of the things that helps us to remember that this son or daughter is the child for this particular parent is because there is something similar, okay, that we can observe if we are to put these people, maybe we line them up and then see some of the things that resembles them in terms of color of their skin, in terms of the hair pattern, in terms of the eye color, and obviously anything that we can possibly, observe between these family. So the key word there is inheritance. So don't forget, genetics is simply the study of what inheritance. And now, what you're studying as inheritance, so this now the inheritance of these are like inheritance. So you can inherit, for example, the eye color, okay, the skin. Then you can also inherit what else? Okay. Now, when you understand that, okay, so these are some of the features that we are inheriting from our parents, okay? So understand that what are some of the things that we are inheriting. So it could be the eye color, it could be the skin color, it could also be the hair type. So you'll find that some of our friends, they have the hair that is curled, okay? That is curled, something like that. And we can be able to trace that kind of feature maybe to either the mom or the dad. So that is basically about inheritance. Okay. Now from there, we're also looking at now when you talk about something like a gene, okay, or genes as plural, you have to understand what are these genes. or what is a definition of a gene. So now a gene is basically the unit of inheritance. So if I inherit, for example, if I inherit maybe the color, if I inherit maybe that the eye color that I have might be blue or might be brown or whatever the color is. But that thing that I've inherited is what we call the genes, okay, that are coming from the parents, okay. So now the definition. So we are saying that this okay, so now all we are saying that when you actually inherit something, what you're just inheriting biologically is that these are called the genes, okay? And a gene just a basic unit of inheritance. Genetics is simply the study of inheritance or the science that studies what in inheritance. So make sure that you understand the key difference between genetics as well as the gene, or rather just a gene. So those are the most important things that you have to understand. Now from there, so now we'll look at alleles, okay? So I've actually seen many people not pronouncing this one correctly, but that is not the issue here, okay? The most important thing to understand is you know what, how to spell it, and also doesn't matter the way you pronounce it. Now, the alleles, what are they, okay? Because in this year's paper, there was something to define, to do, if I'm not mistaken, but I think it should be to do something with define what is an allele, okay? Now, I mean, not this year, I think 2023, okay? So an allele, this is an alternative form of Now, this is where I'm going to explain very clearly. When you're talking about an allele, what is it that you are talking about, or what is it that you are looking at? So we are saying that an allele is simply the alternative form of a gene. So it is very difficult, or rather, yeah, very difficult for you to biologically give us the representation of a gene. Like, for example, if we were to bisect your cells, and obviously we look inside the DNA, and obviously inside the cell, the nucleus and everything, and then now we see the DNA there, and then we keep on dismantling. But you can't tell us that that is the gene for the eye color, or that is the gene for the skin color. It is very difficult. So for human communication, human convention way, or the conventional way of understanding how we can represent a biological gene. And this is what comes down to what we call the allele, or the alleles. Now, the alternative form of a gene. So, for example, if I'm going to give you an example of the eye color, for example. So, if the color, the eye color could be characterized as in blue color, or even just I think gray, okay, if there is such color of an eye. So gray and blue. Now, I mean brown and blue, okay. So you can say a gene of so the gene of an eye, okay, now, gene of an eye, And then we can say that okay, so gene of an I, we can say it has something like B, or B, small b. Now, I'll be able to explain in the next video what is the meaning of these kind of representation. But when we say the gene of an I, okay, it is very difficult biologically to be understood, okay? But we can use what is called an allele to alternatively represent that particular gene that we are referring to. So this is now where we use alleles to represent that. So you can have this kind of representation, and it could mean something, okay? And this one could also mean also something. But the most important thing is that you understand the meaning of the capital letter and the meaning of a small letter, okay? So in conclusion now, okay, I want you to remind you that you have to understand these things, because it is going to help you be able to pass that part of genetics and make sure that you hammer the question nicely and without fear. So thank you so much for watching, and remember, support, subscribe, and also like the video. Hello once again, and welcome to another episode of Biology Revision. So we are now going to dive into what is a chromosome and how many chromosomes does a human being have. And obviously from there we can now step on to maybe the difference between a gene as well as a chromosome. Now we saw in the previous episode that a gene is simply just a basic unit of inheritance. But we want to look at even much further under the chromosome. So what is really a chromosome? Now, I'm not going to go into the advanced biology and all that. I just want to stay basic, but this basic that I'm saying doesn't actually mean that it's too surface, but we don't want to complicate something, okay? Whatever I'm going to explain is very fundamental, and it is going to help you understand every single question in biology. So a chromosome, or even just chromosomes, what are they? Now when you look at chromosomes, you just say this or these, or we can say now, understand that the definition of what a chromosome is not really biological per se, okay? It is more of a descriptive definition, because when you open the cell, obviously you're going to find many things within the cell. However, this, in terms of a chromosome, you can see it as a thread, like a structure. So just a thread-like structure. For instance, I can give you this. Okay, so what you have is, when you're looking at inside the cell of either an animal cell or even just a plant cell, so you see something that resembles like a thread, okay? So in biology, there is no biological definition of what a chromosome is, okay? And obviously, the closest thing that we see when we look at a cell, a plant cell, or even just an animal cell, you look at it inside through the microscope, and obviously you can see something that is similar, like just this thread, which is a thread-like structure. And obviously, this now can now make sense. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is also help you understand. Now, in the previous video, we just theoretically define what is a gene. Okay. Now, when you have a thread like this, okay, so let us just don't mind my drawing, but of course this should be suffice. Okay, now I'm trying to just sort of like make you understand what is a chromosome and also what is a gene. So when you're talking about a gene and a chromosome, these two things, they coexist, okay? You can have a gene alone, and then you can also have a chromosome alone. So what's going to happen now is that a chromosome is a thread-like structure, as you can see on the board. But again, when you look at the gene, okay, now we said that a gene is a basic unit of inheritance. So there's only, two types of chromosomes, okay? And these two types of chromosomes, they are what you call, they are found, okay? They are found in your reproductive organs, like the male reproductive organs, and that is, you know what I'm talking about, and the female reproductive organs. Okay, so now onto the surface, okay, you can have this thing can be segmented, okay? We can have some portion of segment. Okay, so this thing can be segmented, okay? So what this means is that on each segment, there is a representation, okay? So this segment could have A. So this could have A, B, C, D, E, F, and just like that. Now, I'm just giving this hypothetical understanding. Okay. Now, when you do that, now these letters that I've put on the surface of the chromosome or on each segment. So each segment represents a particular gene. Okay. And now it is not like this is a molecule. Okay. It is not like these are letters that you are able to see when you actually look at the chromosome. No. These are just hypothetical so that you understand what we're talking about. So each one of the letters could actually represent a specific gene. Okay? Now remember, the genes are in pairs. Okay? The genes are in pairs. Now I'm not going to dive into that, just know that genes moves in pairs. Now, I also said that this so this A, okay, could mean, just for instance, okay. Now the gene A could represent that is a gene that is carrying the specific function of your skin. Okay, so if your skin is dark, if your skin is light, just like that. So there is a specific gene that is responsible for that. And we have B. Okay. So you could also have a gene called B. Now gene B could also be performing a different function as opposed to gene A. Okay? And you can have as many genes as possible in your body. Now, lastly, what you also need to understand that is that if the genes are this, then they are in pairs. So I can have A and small a. I can also have B and small, b. Okay. Now we'll come and explain how this works out when you're explaining meiosis as well as mitosis. But let me not confuse you. Now I want you to understand that genes are in pairs. Okay. Genes are in pairs. So you can't just have one letter representing a particular gene. Okay. They are always in pairs. Okay. Now, lastly, when you're talking about a chromosome, you have to understand that there is two kinds of chromosomes, okay? So there is a chromosome that are specifically for sex, okay? Sex, sort of like description, okay? So this XY is for male, and this XX is for female. Now, also understand that the idea is that in your body, okay, in your body as a fully human being, you have 46 chromosomes. 46 chromosomes. Now, how are you having 46 chromosomes? Now, remember, if you are a fully grown human being, you were not actually born, okay, from one person, okay. So if I am, okay, myself, me, where I am right now, okay, I'm the product of two individuals, okay, that had sex, they slept together. Now each one of those individuals, the mom and the dad, okay, contributed equal amount of chromosomes, okay, and now, so 23 chromosomes came from one individual, and also 23 chromosomes came from another individual. So we are the product of two people, okay? We are the product of two people. Now I want you to understand is when we say that there are 46 chromosomes, or rather when you split this one, 23, 23, this does not mean that they were about 23 different kind of chromosomes. No, okay? You have, as a fully grown human being, 46 chromosomes. It simply means that the number 23rd or 23 chromosome is the chromosome that is specifically for sex function, okay? It is the one that undergoes the function of sex, or rather the role of reproduction. Now, the other chromosome might be functioning for other purposes or other specifics. So I want you to understand that because the first chromosome, the second, the fourth, the fifth, those are not reproductive chromosomes, okay? So I want you to understand that. Now, I don't want to confuse you. Remember, this is revision. We have 46 chromosomes. What is the definition of a chromosome? What is a definition of a gene? And also remember that genes are always in pairs. So you can't have one letter representing a gene. They always go in like as a pair, two letters, that is one pair. Okay, and you'll be able to see more when you come to the explanation of meiosis and mitosis, so that we understand how we come to be, okay, either meiosis or even just mitosis. why are they much cardinal or important. So thank you so much, guys. Remember to support, subscribe. This is the Radical Academy, and this is Professor Guanamai. And I'll see you in the next video. It's bye-bye.